Welcome back to AWANI. Across the world, we see an increase in ransomware attacks or data breaches in different industry sectors, from Davita, a US dialysis firm, to recent ransomware attack on Toppernax Tech or Home Team TMS in Singapore, to hackers demanding 10 million US dollar ransom in Malaysia Airports Holdings Berhad cyber attack in Malaysia. And this highlights the urgent need to enterprises and companies to strengthen their cyber resilience as cyber criminals grow more sophisticated and aggressive in their attacks and demands. It is critical for industry players to proactively protect data, defend digital infrastructure, and develop robust incident response strategies and be ready. And with me right now to discuss further on this, Dr. Craig Martel, Chief AI Officer of Cohesity. First of all, thank you so much coming to our show today. For maybe, what is the state of artificial intelligence AI today?
So first of all, terima kasih for having me. So AI today is in a really interesting spot in the hype cycle. We had this really large peak in all of the magic that AI was going to do, and now we're starting to come down from that hype cycle and see where it's really effective and where it's not. So I think AI is showing really strong promise for things like helping with coding, helping with writing, in the sciences. But I think it's really important to think about AI not as a singular technology, such that if you buy it, you can solve all of your problems, which is the way it's sold. Instead, you need to think it's a collection of technologies, and it may work for one use case, but may not work for another use case.
Cybersecurity and AI are top of mind or boardrooms, and what is AI's critical role in safeguarding data against ransomware and other threats?
So there's a number of ways to approach that. The first thing I would say is that the same power that allows attackers to, using AI to get easier access to your data, also allows you to protect it, right? So, for example, you could use AI to red team, try to find those ways into your data themselves. But other things that are really important is in your backup system to automatically scan for malware. Can you detect whether there's something there that shouldn't be there? And most importantly today is, can you detect a change in entropy? Because entropy is an indication of a ransomware attack. And you can use AI to do these things.
Oh, okay. And then what data protection and management strategies will help organizations, especially if you say in Malaysia, focus on driving positive business outcomes?
So let's just go back to that ransomware notion for a second. When you think about data protection, you really should think about the NIST, the U.S. National Institute of Standards, notion of 3-2-1. 3 copies in 2 locations, one of which is immutable. Not changeable. So you should think about your, and ideally that copy is air gapped, so completely separate from the rest of your company's data. Because if you detect that there's a ransomware attack, you can always go back to the last known good if that data is not touchable. And so it's really important when thinking about your data resiliency strategy to follow these sorts of norms.
Maybe how will future-ready especially data, help enterprises have a winning advantage in uncertain times?
So the really important thing to think about AI in general is that it's, let's ask the question, what is AI? AI is really statistics at scale. You gather data from the past to build a model to predict the future. That's the really important thing to think about. So given that it's statistics at scale, the data that's in a generic AI model may or may not be effective for your use case. So the data that's in your backup, the data that you have in your company, is the data that's going to provide those advantages. So any insight into your business, any capabilities that you want to build, that's going to come from the data that's in your business, not from stuff external. Like if you go to one of the cloud providers and buy AI, that's great, but that's generic. The real advantage your company is going to have is leveraging its business data for AI.
Talking about evolving threats, how have cyber threats actually evolved with the rise of AI? When we are talking about, especially for example, like are attackers also using AI
That's right.
tools, especially AI tools, to scale or automate their attacks? Yeah.
So they have been scaling and automating at increasingly big speed. But again, the sort of security folks that we work with have also been doing the same thing simultaneously.
Okay.
So it is absolutely going to become an arms race, right? You want to keep up on this arms race. You want to make sure that you're using the same tools that the bad guys might be using to see if you can find vulnerabilities. And if I could give a few pieces of advice, there's sort of three things that we at Cohesity recommend. First, always keep your software up to date. Because if there's an attack, up-to-date software may close that attack. Always use multi-factor authentication everywhere. A lot of attacks we see attack the identity system of your organization, so the bad guys could hijack an identity, and so be part of your company in ways that you don't want them to be. But if you use multi-factor authentication, then that's less likely. And finally, always red team. Always practice, practice, practice. Practice what would happen if you were attacked. Because let's say the worst case happens, you are attacked. Well, if you've practiced, you can get up and running more quickly. You can get back to where you need to be more quickly. So people tend to think about what should we do after an attack? Right after an attack. That maybe is not the best time to think about it. You should think about that ahead of time, have a plan and practice.
More proactive. Okay, I would like to bring our discussion into data classification, and also especially on sensitivity, for example, and zero trust and AI, because of data resilience and governance is always interconnected each other. One key challenge is knowing what data to protect most, and how can actually AI help with data classification and also tagging sensitivity and automating data protection policies.
100%. So if you think about what, I come from a backup perspective, so I'm going to answer it with respect to, that's what our company does, right? So that's what Cohesity does. So if you think about that backup data, and if you think about it just sitting in the corner, then you're wasting a very valuable resource. Because as that data is being backed up, it's representative of your whole business, not just 10 years ago, but also 15 minutes ago. So you can use that data as an indicator of there's something being wrong, or as an indicator of what data needs to be protected. So we constantly run classification techniques where we discover PII, where we discover health information, where we discover other sensitive information that you may or may not want, that you have to govern differently, right? In addition, we can also do not just malware scanning, but we can look for anomalous behaviors. So we start to see over in this group, more things are being encrypted than were encrypted before. And it has a lot of PII. Maybe that's a ransomware attack.
Right? How about, large enterprises, large companies may have the resources, but how can small or mid-size, especially in the context of Malaysian businesses, begin their journey towards AI-powered cyber resilience? Maybe your advice on SMEs, how they can start to make sure that their business are well equipped, is ready on this.
That's great. That's a great question, and it's something that we at Cohesity think about quite a bit. Because if you're a large organization, then you already know how to build AI, you already have the tools to build AI, and you already have the problem set that you're concerned with. We have been thinking hard about how can we offer to our customers sort of an out-of-the-box AI solution that leverages their data. So we have a product called Gaia, and Gaia stands for Generative AI Application. It also is the name of a Greek goddess, so we got both out of it. But Gaia allows you to, just by buying your backup data, regardless of the size of your business, you have to back up, right? So as it's backed up, using our Gaia tool, you can actually ask questions of your data. Like you can ask things like, when was the last time our profit looked like the following? Or can you show me an example of data of medical data that may have left illegally or incorrectly. And it will search through the data and it'll find that and it'll help you answer lots of analytical questions like that.
What role do you think, especially AI, will play in building more cyber resilient Malaysia? You know, like for example, like and how important public-private partnership, collaboration in this space.
Yeah, so I think that let's address the public-private one. I think that's really interesting. Having the right governance rules in place for how you protect your data, how you manage your data is going to be unbelievably important. Because look, you pick up your phone and you press a button and suddenly you shared your data with everybody, right? And if it's the Wild West out there, then you don't know where your data is going. But having a strong governance policy, like I know Malaysia just passed a lot of new AI rules. Having a strong governance policy allows for a uniform set of protections for your data. So I think that public-private is really important. Private doing it alone is great for experimenting and trying new things, but public has to say, look, this is the minimum set of protections that we need to make sure that our citizens' data is protected.
One of the issue in Malaysia is about the expertise, the technical expertise, especially on AI. As AI transform, how can we secure and manage data, and what skills should Malaysian tech leaders and team be developing today?
This is really interesting, given the last talk, right? The last person you had on. I think it's really important that education starts to not ignore AI, but integrate AI into the training. So let's talk about. So I'm a computer scientist by training, so I know coding best. Let's talk about coding. Before AI, you learn a bunch of coding, and the programmer codes all of the code and checks for bugs and so on. Now the tools are so good that you might code some of it, but there's going to be large chunks of it that you're going to code via AI. And there's going to be large pieces of it where you're going to ask AI, are there any bugs here? Right? The problem is, since AI is statistics at scale, as I said before, it's guaranteed to be sometimes wrong. Right? So it's really going to help people who understand their job be more efficient, more than it's going to replace people with a machine. So as a coder, you still need the expertise and the understanding to be able to decide that code generated by the AI was acceptable, or that it actually did find a bug. Right? It may not have been a bug, it might have been a design choice on your part. And so you still need the expertise to understand code, but that coder is going to become significantly more efficient. But to do that, I think that training with AI, sort of joint coding, human and AI, has to start back in university.
Dr. Craig, it's such a pleasure talk with you on this matter. And of course, we in Malaysia especially need to make sure that we are like resilient enough in order to make sure that we have a good experts, and also our education system are ready to make sure that we are ready to face all the challenges, and also make sure that AIs are integrated together with our education system and makes Malaysian more resilient. Thank you so much, Dr. Craig Martel, Chief AI Officer of Cohesity. All of this will be available in our social media platform and astroawani.com. Thank you so much for watching Astro Awani, dan selepas ini anda akan bersama dengan Temina untuk meneliti berkenaan dengan satu laporan berkait dengan hidupan liar, isu gajah yang masih lagi mungkin mendominasi media sosial pada ketika ini. Kita nak berhenti rehat seketika. Selepas ini anda akan bersama dengan Temina Kausji dalam Niaga Spotlight.